The town of Breckenridge broke ground on its most expensive project ever this April, a $53 million water plant north of town on the Blue River. Public Works Director James Phelps says the new plant is a long time coming. It will supplement the old plant on Goose Pasture Tarn in Blue River that was built in 1971 and now cranks along at near capacity. It has been working so hard for so long, it's nearly failing, and local water use is rising from 10,500 gallons per day in 2012 to a predicted 16,000 gallons in 2030. Krystal 93 spoke with Phelps to learn more about the new plant, the project timeline, and why this could not wait any longer.
Phil Lindeman, Krystal 93 News Director, and I'm on the phone with James Phelps. He's Director of Public Works for the town of Breckenridge. James, thanks for making time to talk today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And we are talking Breckenridge's new $50 million water plant, a much-needed, long-awaited addition to the town water system. And you guys broke ground recently on this. Tell me a little bit about this new plant, how it came to be, and what the plans are for this new plant.
Well, the project really began back in 2013 with a feasibility study, and really the scope of that project was to take a look at what the water demand was going to be in the future. And so, as I just mentioned, 2013 really kicked off that study, and it was a study that took place over 3 years. And along the way, it continued to underscore the need to build an additional treatment water plant. And so currently the town has a plant it's also approaching some of its design life and will need some rehabilitation in the future. And so in order to successfully do that project, it only made sense to then in turn to build out the second water treatment plant. And that's the one that's currently under construction north of Breckenridge.
Okay, great. You said that the needs assessment was really what kicked this all off. What is the need for water and water use across Breckenridge, looking ahead into the future?
Well, there's a number of items that was looked at, that kind of are used to project kind of what the demands are in the future. And really probably the thing that most people would if you've lived here for any amount of time would recognize is that there's definitely more visitors here, and there's more front range folks that frequent our community, and then there's also a permanent base of individuals that live here as well. So when you combine the three of those categories, it really one can only imagine that you require more water. So we did a number of projections, and really the one that really rang out true to us is that just even looking at what the water demand in 2030 would be, it was quickly understood that our current water capacity or ability to produce water was not going to meet with some of the demand projections. So that was really what brought us around to doing an engineering design on a new plant.
Okay. So like you said, even looking 12 to 15 years ahead, there's going to be a need. There's going to be an increased need.
There will absolutely be an increased need for water, even given some of our conservation efforts that the town has undergone and has adopted. There's still strong data that would support that there's going to be an increased need for water production in the upper basin of the Breckenridge area.
Okay, great. When it comes to water use, what users are taking the most water from the Breckenridge system? Where's that water get divvied out to?
Well, it's interesting. The highest water uses are actually in the summer, and those can pretty easily be attributed to outdoor water uses. So as most people know, that in the summertime there are landscaping projects, and there's that require water, and just the outdoor activities in the summer drive those demand peaks up higher. Also, we do use there are peaks in the wintertime too, but we tend to see higher demand use in the summer.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because one of the things that I always think about is snowmaking. Obviously, that's got to be a little bit of a drain, but maybe not as long of a drain as the full summer season. It just doesn't last as long.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, there is one would believe and probably at least to believe that snowmaking does take quite a bit of water use, and while it does, a lot of that water in the form of after it melts from the snow does get returned to the waterways, and so it's not actually a full use as other consumptive.
Gotcha. So it's not exactly, you can't look at it as a loss of water or a total use of water because it's getting regurgitated, recycled back through the into the streams and everything. Okay, great. So like you said, that need assessment really kick-started things. And now we're at the plant where construction began recently. What does this plant look like, and why was that location selected, and how about the size of the plant?
Yeah, there was. We are under construction now. We just kicked the project off at the beginning of April, so anybody that's driving into Breckenridge will quickly notice that there's a large construction project taking place. That site was selected. There were a number of sites that were evaluated, and there was obviously a number of criteria that were looked at in terms of, cost efficiency and feasibility and the proximity to water and some other aspects about that at the end of the day, this site was selected for the location of the site. What this plant will, at full build out, will be a 3 MGD production plant. So 3 million gallons daily is what it can produce.
Okay.
The actual site, the actual treatment plant is actually being constructed with the ability to have one expansion in it that could actually, in the future, if things even kind of surpass what our projections are, we would be able to put another treatment train in it to make it even larger than what we're building it out at the 3 MGD.
Okay.
What we'll be seeing will be a series of on that water treatment plant site will be about 5 different structures. The main treatment facility. There'll be a blending tank, a residuals building, a clear well, and an administration building that will actually, in the admin building, it'll be more for the operations. There'll be a laboratory in there that our water division folks will be able to perform some of the lab work that's critical to producing quality water and understanding our production. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. How does that 3 million gallons daily compare to the current plant up on the Tarn?
Well, our current plant, as I mentioned earlier, is it was initially constructed in 1971, and it's been added on it several times over the years. And that's a 5 MGD plant, so it's a little bit larger than the one that we're constructing currently. But again, kind of going back to that same statement, we are starting to understand better that there are some rehab work that needs to take place on that to get it up to full production. Okay. One of the benefits of having the 2 plants in the future will give us that ability to take the Tarn plant offline even in the future to do some of that work when the new plant comes online in 2020. Okay.
So the capacity there, like you said, it is 5 million. What's it running at currently? Is it at capacity, or is it not really been able to reach that?
It can reach that. There isn't often a need to do that currently. Last year, I think we peaked out at 4.2 MGD was kind of what the demand was. So it was approaching that number, but that isn't an optimal number. You don't want to operate your plant at that maximum capacity for it. They're not designed to operate at that maximum capacity for an indefinite amount of time.
Okay. Great. Now, as far as you know, was that plant also designed for those additions? Like you said, this new plant's designed so that you can add on to it if you want to. Was the old plant also set up that way, or are those additions kind of Frankensteined on there, retrofitted on there?
Really the latter. It was not originally designed for those expansions that took place. While we were able to retrofit them and make it all work as a system, it initially was not designed for that. As mentioned, the new plant will just be kind of a plug and play. If that day in the future comes sooner than we believe, that we'll just be able to, the footprint of everything will be already in place, and we'll just be able to easily plug a new treatment train in and to get that full capacity.
Great. Yeah, very cool. Like you said, kind of planning ahead just in case the town reaches its limit before then. And right. Speaking ahead, that was my last big question for you, was the future of these two plants and how they'll work in conjunction. I'm imagining the first thing, once the new plant is finished and constructed, will be to take Goose Pasture offline so that you can start on some of those repairs?
That's correct. That is looking at our capital projects in the future. That is absolutely one of the first things that we'll be looking at, is doing some rehab on the current plant. There's also some additional work in that where that plant is sited right now that we need to do a little bit of work on the dam itself in terms of where we store our water for production. Mm-hmm. But that will, with the second plant, that will really provide us some great opportunities for not only doing that work, but it'll also give us some of that additional operational flexibility. If we do have an issue at the Goose Pasture Tarn plant, again, we'll be able to utilize the new plant. It also gives us the ability to have redundancy. I know, if there's any kind of natural catastrophes of sort in this area, we have the ability to treat water from a different point source than just having the one source. And then it also really gives us the ability to have aesthetic reasons, abilities to store more water in the Goose Pasture Tarn in the future, and then also provide more water in the Blue River, honestly, for some of the aesthetic and recreational purposes.
Okay, great. And that brings up a question. As far as the new work on the new plant goes, what is being done to the waterway itself? Any work being done to the Blue River there? Any redirecting or anything like that?
No, the project will be completely independent of any work that on the waterway itself. It won't entail being in Blue River at all. The source or the intake of where the water will be drawn out of is closer to Farmer's Corner, right before it goes into Lake Dillon. So there won't be any work to the Blue River itself as related to this project.
Okay, great. And finally, I know that this has been a long time coming. It's a project that's kind of been something on your mind since at least 2013. You personally, what has you excited to see this new plant finally coming together and finally in the works?
I would have to say I think it's exciting for all of the community in the Upper Blue Basin. I mean, it's water is a precious resource, and certainly it's something that if it's not on everyone's mind, it certainly should be. I think in years like we've seen this winter, I think it certainly raises a lot of questions about kind of water capacity and storage and ability to have it available. So I think this project will be something that really will be, over a benefit and an asset for the community for number of decades into the future. And I do believe it's essential for not only community's economy, but the natural environment and just quality of life for the citizens of Breckenridge.
Okay. Absolutely. And of course, the price tag is drawing attention because largest project the town, or largest municipal project the town has undertaken ever, as far as I know.
That's correct. It is I believe it is the largest capital project that the town has undergone. But looking at it in the long term, and if you were to run that number out over all the years that it will be a benefit, I think that, that number is quickly can be one that people can agree that it's an important asset for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. James, and that was the last thing that I had for you about the new Breck water plant and the future of Breckenridge's water system. Thanks for making time to explain how all these puzzle pieces are fitting together.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, James. Phil Lindeman on Krystal 93.